Hi all, welcome back to the Knit+Sip podcast. I'm Kate, and today we're going to be doing a brief Meet the Maker. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll be talking a little bit about the why and the what of the Knit+Sip kits, or the 12 months of beginner project kits that I will be launching for next year. So again, I'm Kate, and I have a store, a local yarn shop in Louisville, Kentucky called Over the Next Row Knits. I started the store just about a year ago, but started teaching knitting several months before that, so I've been teaching for about a year and a half. My husband and I are both Indiana University grads, and so after school, I went into HR, corporate consulting, got my MBA, so spent several years in the corporate world, and then a change of lifestyle happened when I needed to stay home with our daughter, which was such an incredible blessing. So I was home with my kids for about 4 years before I started this business, and those were some incredible years that I would not ever trade. But that was also, those years were the years when I really found knitting, and when it became something more than a hobby and it became truly a lifestyle and a lifeline for me. It was something that I could do just for myself. It was something that I could do and see the progress of what I was doing. And it definitely brought that element of mindfulness when, you're watching Baby Shark or listening to Baby Shark over and over again. And you need a little bit of mindfulness for yourself. So, and it's also something that I can do and model with my kids as a healthy habit and healthy behavior. It's something I can do with them and explain why I'm doing it with them, and not take anything away from them. So I can still, play with them and interact with them and play all those great pretend games that kids play, but I can be knitting, stockinette stitching the round for 30 minutes while we're doing that, and, get a little bit of that balance back in my life. So that was, again, when knitting really became more than just a hobby to me. So I learned to knit about 9 years ago. This month, really right about now in December, is my 9-year knit-iversary. And so my cousin's wife taught me to knit. Again, I think I mentioned that on a previous podcast as well. And I had such a great experience when I had somebody sitting there physically holding my hand. That helped me for my learning style a lot. And I know that everyone learns differently. And I also know that the pandemic changed the way that a lot of us were able to learn. It changed what we had at our fingertips. It went away from necessarily having somebody there to hold your hand physically because we couldn't be together, to us adapting to learning on YouTube. And so I definitely have seen that shift with people, but I do still have so many people that do learn better, with somebody holding their hand. So I encourage you, if you're following along with us in these 12 months of beginner projects, if you get stuck and you can't find the answers on YouTube, go find one of your great local yarn shops and ask and have somebody physically hold your hand. And that's, hopefully why a lot of local yarn shops exist. I wanted to open the store so that we could help making knitting, crocheting, things like that, accessible to Louisville. We'd lost several of our yarn stores in the years preceding this, and so I wanted to bring another local yarn store to add to the awesome ones that we already had here. And I wanted to make it a place where beginners felt welcomed and felt like this was not out of their reach, felt like they could walk in here and not necessarily know what they were doing, what they were looking for, and that they would leave having found it and then having a way to continue on with their making, and that they could come back and feel free to ask questions and things like that. And that is definitely key to my existence as a local yarn shop, is being able to help people through their mistakes and through those hurdles. So again, that's a little bit about me. I think I said I have 2 kids, ages 6 and 3, and they are my world. And so, they come first. Family comes first for me. And I think anyone who knows me knows that. And now you do too. So I'm so grateful to be here with you guys, and I think we're going to have a great year learning together, and I hope that, we'll overcome a lot of hurdles together. I do love teaching knitting. I am not at all a teacher. Like I said, my background is not in teaching, although I did do some learnings with, in my HR and corporate consulting career. I did, develop trainings and help lead through trainings. So maybe some of my love for teaching comes from that. So be patient with me. I'm not any kind of a trained teacher. And a lot of my podcasts will be about learning, the specific project and the specific skills that we will go through. But this is not necessarily meant in any way to be, a true, let's learn the knit stitch, let's learn the purl stitch. It's more like, let's learn the specific skill. Let's learn what garter stitch looks like. Let's learn how to slip a stitch purl-wise or knit-wise, if that is what the pattern calls for. Let's learn how to change a ball of yarn, but it's not necessarily going to be let's cast on, let's learn the knit stitch or learn the purl stitch. So as we go through these projects, I will be giving you guys some great places that I go to and that I tell any of my customers who come in here, my friends, I will tell them to go to. I do have beginner knitting tutorials like let's learn the knit stitch, let's learn the cast on, the bind off, the purl stitch. I do have all that on my website, so you're always welcome to go check those out on my website, or like I said, I'll list some other great podcasts or websites that you can go to find that kind of information. And now I'd like to tell you a little bit about why the kits, what they are. So let's dive in and take a look. So first of all, why kits in general? The biggest reason why kits, something that looks like this is going to be what my kits will look like. Or if I'm shipping them to you, you'll get this box and the, information will be more on the inside. So why kits? It is because as a beginner, it can be hard to know what you need to make, and it would be really frustrating to say, I want to go make something, and then you come home and you don't actually have everything that you need to make. So the reason behind the kits is to make sure that when you sit down, you have everything you need from start to finish to make your project. It won't include something like a scissors. I think most people have scissors at home, but all of the rest of the things will be in there. So that is the biggest reason why behind kits, because as a beginner, I remember getting really frustrated thinking, oh, I've left my local yarn shop and nobody told me that I needed, X amount of yarn, and probably because they assumed I knew that and I did not. So that kind of stuff was hard for me to figure out as a beginner, or I didn't even know I needed to think about that. So by having a kit, you'll already have that, and then hopefully you'll feel more like, okay, I can look at this pattern and I can see that she's sent me, X amount of yardage. I needed X amount of yardage. We'll talk through those things in the podcast, like how to read that in a pattern, what to do, how to tell that, how to read a yarn label. I love teaching stuff like that because it's really important for when you take the reins on your knitting to know all of those things. But for now, I want you to worry more about getting the basics down and getting through some of the hurdles that pretty much all beginner knitters face. So I want us to be able to work through those together and learn all of those important steps too, so that once you complete the 12 months of beginner projects, you can take the reins on your knitting and feel really prepared. Things that took me years to learn, I'm hoping that you'll learn within, my goal is that you will learn that within the first year of us working together. And like I said, you'll be able to just fly off on your own after that. So that is really the why behind the kits. And now let's talk about what they are and let's take a look at them. So I showed you what they will look like. And like I said, if I'm shipping them to you, you'll see this sticker with what's included on them on the inside of your box. And then when you open your box, so for example, this first project that we're doing for January, you're going to have two skeins of, or two cakes, these are yarn cakes. So I will send you caked yarn unless you leave in the notes not to. I will send you something that you can start knitting straight from. If it's not in a cake, if it's still in its hank form, you won't be able to knit from it, and that would be frustrating, I think, for most people. So unless you leave me some note like, hey, I really want to cake my own yarn as part of my process, which that's great if you do, I will send it to you in yarn cakes. And then you'll have the darning needle in the bag too. I don't want that to get lost, so you'll have that so you'll be able to weave in the ends on your project. So that's a couple of the things for this project that you'll need. If you need any kind of stitch markers for the project, I'll include those in some kind of a little bag too so that they don't get lost. So expect that you'll have those. This project uses a size 17 needle, so I'll include the needles in your box. And then in this box, because this is a pattern that I created, so it's an owned pattern for me, I will also include the written copy of the pattern. So you'll have the printed off version for the 5 patterns that we're doing that are ones I created. I do want to be very specific with patterns that I did not create, patterns that I am, recommending from someone else. 1, I don't know these people, so I'm not getting any kind of a kickback from them. 2, they are all free patterns, so I'm not trying to, profit from, and nothing that's wrapped up in the kit is part of the price of a pattern. They are all free. And 3, if I do not own the pattern, based on copyright law, I will not be providing you with the written pattern. So what I would suggest is that if you're getting ready to gear up for the 12 months of beginner knitting, go out and get a Ravelry account. They are free. The app, which is called Ravit, is not free, but it is, I think, like a $4.99 one-time payment, but you don't need the app. So you just need the website, and that is a free sign up, and then you'll have a Ravelry account, and you'll go down the rabbit hole of looking at all the amazing patterns and creating a library of your own of all of the things that you want to make on Ravelry. It's a great repository of patterns. So that's where I think most makers kind of end up finding their patterns. Certainly there's things on Etsy, Pinterest, all of those, but Ravelry seems to be the biggest repository for makers of patterns. So please go and get that account. And so for the patterns I do not own, I will be giving you like a QR code that will send you either out to Ravelry or out to the designer's website to help drive traffic for them. So as a business owner, I know the incredible joy I get with literally each and every website click that I get. I'm like, yay, somebody's checking me out. And so I hope that, we can give these people that satisfaction and feeling too of the joy of, having somebody look at your work. So I will be giving, like I said, a QR code with the link for those, and you can go check them out either on their websites or on Ravelry, but rest assured that they are all free. Mine are actually not all free, but what I will do is either give you, probably both, not either, but give you the printed off version and then give you a QR link to the digital pattern on my website so that you can download a copy of that for free. So you'll be getting mine for free as well if you're doing this series. And as we go through the series, I'll be talking about some of the other apps. So I mentioned Ravit. I'll be talking about some of the other apps that are really helpful to download that you might want to use as you're, going forward in your knitting career. So that will be a great, learning moment for you too. I know if you're an app person like I am, because I'm a major app person, I always like to have, the insight on, hey, what apps are really helpful for me to use and to have, what apps are going to help further my journey. So we'll talk about those tips and tricks too as we go forward in the podcast. That is the why and the what and a little bit of even, I guess, the how of our knitting kits for the year. So hopefully after this you know a little bit about me, a little bit about the kits and what we can expect for the year. And I'll be doing one more podcast before the end of the year that is just going to talk through a little bit about the importance of fibers. So I really want to talk to you guys about the different yarns that we're going to be using, and for any of the yarns that I already have in the shop, I want to show you guys those and talk about the importance of fibers. So tune in for that one, and then our longer podcasts with all our project, coordinating with all the projects and talking through them will start in the new year. So thanks for tuning in. Cheers.